What's up, everybody? Welcome to part 3 of my top 100 favorite music artists, and this is, we're going from 50 to 26 in this part. So, alright, yeah, we're getting closer. Okay, let's, go ahead and get started. Okay, so coming at number 50, we have a punk band, if you're a punk fan, most likely you've heard of them. That would be X. Yeah, the letter X. That's their name. And this is the LA band, not the Australian band, which I never heard before, but the LA band. Really cool. John Doe and Xena are awesome together. Their harmonies are great. Sometimes they got kind of a rockabilly vibe to their music, but a lot of times it's just kind of straight up just punk music and hardcore sometimes too. And they're a really cool band. They've been together since the 70s, and they even put out an album like in 2020. That was like their first, and God knows how long, like since 1993, I think. So yeah. Anyways, but yeah. X, favorite song by them is We're Desperate. Really awesome song with Xena on lead vocals. But X is number 50. Okay, coming at number 49, we have a rap group from the 90s, and that is Cypress Hill. Cypress Hill is just badass, just a stoner rap group. Be Real and Sin Dog are amazing. They do kind of have funny voices, both of them, but they're great rappers. I don't smoke weed too much. I have before, but even before I started smoking weed, I always loved Cypress Hill. I also loved Cheech and Chong and Jay and Silent Bob and other stoner stuff before I started smoking weed. So, but Cypress Hill is awesome. Their first album is great too, my favorite song is "I Want to Get High" from Black Sunday. The opening on there, really, really great song. Yeah. Number 49, Cypress Hill. Okay, coming at number 48, we have a solo artist, a female solo artist. There's another female solo artist coming up in this video. But she was pretty popular in the 90s, and one of my favorite songwriters, I should say. Great singer, too. That is Tori Amos. Tori Amos, awesome, like I said, a great songwriter. She has a beautiful voice, and she's a great piano player as well. Her songs are kind of weird. They have some weird lyrics, but she has, like, throughout her life been through a bunch of stuff, and so yeah, even though her lyrics are a little controversial, and she's kind of weird, but, but she's an awesome artist. She's gorgeous, too. I just want to say that. I have a thing for redhead, so yeah. I love Tori Amos. My favorite song is from this album, Silent All These Years. This is Little Earthquakes, by the way, her debut. But yeah, Silent All These Years is my favorite from her. Tori Amos, she's number 48. Okay, coming in at number 47, now we have even a weirder artist than Tori Amos. This is a group that's been around since the 70s, and the thing about this group is that they, no one really knows. There's only one member that's ever revealed himself. This band, they play anonymously, and they always wear disguises, and their most popular is the eyeball disguise. I think you might know who I'm talking about since I mentioned the eyeball heads. That's the Residents. The Residents, very weird band. Avant-garde music is mostly their thing, but they do experiment too, and they've done some really interesting covers as well, and they're really cool. Very weird, but really cool. I dig them a lot. They're also very influential. Like they were a big influence on Primus and other bands as well. Yeah, I love the Residents. My favorite song is a cover actually, and it's their cover of Hank Williams' "Kalijah." Their cover of Kalijah is awesome. But yeah, the Residents, they are number 47. Okay, coming at number 46, we have a solo artist who, I like his band better, but as a solo artist, I dig him a lot, and I just like him anyways. He's amazing. Kind of wish I would put him higher just because I respect him a lot. He's one of my influences, but like I said, I do like his band better than his solo career, so that's why he's a little bit lower than I wish he was, but that is my number 46, Iggy Pop. Okay, so this guy is one of my musical heroes. Like, he is definitely up there when it comes to, like, my Mount Rushmore of my musical heroes. Like, my influences as a musician myself are Iggy Pop, Mick Jagger, Kurt Cobain, and Daniel Johnston. Actually, all three of those dudes, we'll get to them later on the list, but Iggy is such an amazing frontman. He's also actually a really talented singer. I don't think he gets enough credit as a singer, to be honest. I mean, I never heard anyone say he's a bad singer, but I think he's a very talented singer. He the range in his voice, and like he could do all kinds of like different voices too, and it's really cool. Like, you know, sometimes he sings high, sometimes he sings low, sometimes he's in between. And he just sounds so awesome when he does like any kind of voice, and his stage presence is amazing. I mean, he's mostly known for the shirtless look, you know, that Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers later would steal. But yeah. But Iggy's so awesome. I like the Stooges better, and we'll get to them later. But still, he's still an awesome dude, and I had to put him on here. My favorite song of his solo career is from this album. That would be "Neighborhood Threat." That song is amazing. Like, that's one of my favorite rock songs ever. But yeah, Iggy Pop. He is my number 46. Okay, coming in at number 45, we have a duo, two guys, and that is Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah, especially in recent years, I've really been getting into Simon and Garfunkel. I think they're a great duo. I mean, Paul Simon is more popular, sure, and I would say even more talented than Art Garfunkel, but together they're great. And I love most of their songs I've heard. I'm not a big fan of Bridge Over Troubled Water. I don't really like that one all that much, but, you know, Mrs. Robinson, The Sounds of Silence, and The Boxer is fantastic too. My personal favorite from them is actually, I don't know if I'll say this right because part of the titles in Spanish, but El Condor Pasa, and then in subtitle in parentheses is If I Could. I just call it If I Could, but that song is so good. And I think it's just maybe Paul Simon singing on that one, but still, like, that song is so good. And yeah, and they're great. Just a great folk rock duo. But yeah, Simon and Garfunkel, they are my number 45. Okay, coming at number 44, we have a band that a lot of people love, and I think I bet you there's probably a lot of people that hate them too. They might say they're overrated. I do think that their popularity is a little bit, not overrated, but I kind of think they are a little too overhyped. I don't think they're overrated at all, because they're on here, obviously, but So, I love this band too. It's just that, I don't know, some people just kind of say that, like, they're one of the greatest, and I don't know if I would go that far, but they are very talented. But anyways, that would be Radiohead. Yeah, Radiohead, I think they're very talented, and I think they have a very interesting discography, because you listen to Pablo Honey, and that is just like a straight up just 90s rock album. And then you listen to like OK Computer, and that still 90s rock, but a lot more, a lot different though. Very like more experimental and whatnot. And then the follow-up Kid A is mostly like electronic music, which is very interesting. And then so on and so on. They've just done different stuff on each of their albums, and they're really cool. I dig them a lot. I do actually like Tom York as a vocalist. I think some people don't really like his voice, but I think he's good. Also Johnny Greenwood is a great guitar player, and I even like him as a film composer. He did a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson films, like he did There Will Be Blood, and his score on that film is amazing. But yeah, Radiohead's great. I think they're very talented. Favorite song from them is the national anthem from Kid A. That has like one of the coolest riffs ever. And also Tom York sounds awesome on that song too. But yeah, Radiohead, they're my number 44. Coming in at number 43, we have a very famous punk band, although I would say this band, they started out as a punk band, but then they got a little more experimental. I would kind of consider them as like maybe the Rolling Stones of punk. If you would say like the Ramones or the Beatles of punk, I would say this band is probably the Stones of punk, and like how much the Stones, the Rolling Stones, we'll get to them later, but how they started out as a blues rock band and then experimented. This band started out as a punk band and then experimented. Anyways, that is The Clash. Yeah. The Clash, now, okay, I will say one thing about The Clash. I didn't really care for them when I very first heard them. It took me a minute. It took me a little while to really like The Clash. It kind of took me a while for the Rolling Stones, too, which is very unbelievable if you know how much I love the Stones. More on them later. But yeah, but it did take me a little bit to really appreciate The Clash. I don't know. I just started. I think London Calling, which I don't own, unfortunately. This is the only album I own by them, Combat Rock. But London Calling was, I think, what really got me into them, and made me appreciate them a lot more. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Joe Strummer, to be honest. I don't think he's that great of a singer, but as a frontman, he's pretty good, I will say. I think Mick Jones, I think, is the other dude who sung some songs. I think he's a better singer, but yeah. But no, I really like The Clash now. I think they're fantastic. And I don't love every single song that they do, but I like most of what I've heard, and yeah, they're great. Favorite song from them is from this album, and that would be Straight to Hell. Love that song, and some of y'all might know it because, or at least know like the riff in it, because it was sampled in MIA's Paper Planes, which I will be honest, I actually love that song too. But Straight to Hell is better, and yeah, and The Clash, great band, and they are my number 43. Okay, now coming in at number 42, we have another female solo artist, and a part of me kind of wishes I would put her up just a little higher, because I love this woman. I mean, her music is fantastic, so that's why her music's great, but I have a humongous crush on her, and but I'm judging this, of course, on how I like them musically, so that's why she's a little bit lower. But And also, this one might come as a shock to some of you because this is a more recent artist. I mean, she started in the last decade, but yeah, this one's a little different, and she's a little bit more mainstream too. That would be Phoebe Bridgers. Yeah, Phoebe Bridgers. I think she's awesome. She has a beautiful voice, and she's great to look at too. Obviously, that like, if I'm going to be completely honest, I mean, call me a quote unquote simp, but that's kind of a big reason why I love her, just because I just very much attracted to her. Like, she's up there with Saoirse Ronan, who I've mentioned a bunch of times on the channel too, who I have like, her and Saoirse Ronan are neck and neck of like my number one crush of all time. So, but anyways though, but musically I think she's great too. She's a very talented, very good songwriter. I don't love every single song that she does. Like, she does have a lot of slow songs, but I think most of what I've heard I really enjoy, and I think her band Boy Genius, who have gotten really popular in the last year or so. I think they're great. They're pretty good too. I need to listen to more, but I don't like them as much as I like just Phoebe's solo stuff. But still, Phoebe, I mean, you know, I love her anyways because she's just so beautiful. But also, she is a great artist too. And my personal favorite from her is Kyoto, which is a little different from some of her other stuff, but that song is great. That one's like a little more upbeat and a little faster than a lot of her other stuff, but that I really like that song a lot. But yeah, Phoebe Bridgers, my queen. She is number 42. And coming in at number 41, we have a very underrated 90s band who I think if the lead singer didn't die, maybe they could have gotten bigger, but that would be Morphine. Morphine is a very unique band from the 90s. They are a three-piece, but they don't have a guitar player. They have a bass player / singer, a drummer, and a saxophone player. So yeah, and it's very interesting music. It's kind of a little jazzy, I would say, but also like rock too, you know, alternative rock. Their singer, who is also the bass player, unfortunately, he passed away in 1999, and it's actually very tragic because he died of a heart attack during a Morphine performance, and yeah, that's really heartbreaking to hear. When I heard that, I'm like, oh man, and yeah, that sucks, but he was a great singer. He had a really good voice. Like, you know what? I hate Morrissey from the Smiths, and he sounds a little like Morrissey, but a lot better. I think he pulls it off like a lot better than Morrissey when it came to his singing. And they were a great band. I haven't heard everything, but you know what I have heard, mostly I really enjoyed. I think there was one song, Thursday, I think was the name of it. I didn't really care for that one all that much, but yeah, a little bluesy too, I should say. They were kind of jazz, but some of their stuff was a little bluesy, but yeah, favorite song from them is Candy. That one's really good. And also A Cure for Pain is great too. But yeah, Morphine, they are my number 41. Coming at number 40, we have another, I would say another underrated 90s band, but this one's a little more popular than Morphine, but I still think they're pretty underrated too. That would be Helmet. Helmet was a band that I got into in high school from my brother. I borrowed this album in particular, I remember from him, called Betty, This is like one of the greatest '90s albums ever made. It's so underrated. It's not even their most popular album. That would be probably Meantime, but which that one's not bad. But I think this one is their best. And but like honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, like this is probably this is definitely the one I've listened to the most. But like the songs on here are like my top 5 favorite Helmet songs. I think they're all on this album. So in particular, it's this album, but they're still a good band even outside of the album too. They got some good songs that are not on here as well, of course. I think Page Hamilton is a very good frontman, and he has a cool voice and whatnot. And yeah, they're just a really cool kind of metal sort of. I mean, they are pretty heavy, but just like a heavy rock band, I would consider them, to be honest. Just I wouldn't necessarily call them a heavy metal band, but a heavy rock band. And kind of similar to the Melvins. If you like the Melvins, listen to Helmet. But yeah, favorite song by them is from this album, and that is Speechless. That song is amazing. Just how heavy it is, but also these mellow vocals with it too. It's so good. I mean, Page Hamilton can scream very good too, but I like it whenever he just sings just like normally with this heavy music going on. It's so good. But yeah, Helmet, they are my number 30. No, number 40. My mistake. Coming at number 39. I'm actually kind of surprised I have them a little lower. Maybe it's because I just haven't listened to them in a while. But okay, but this band, I was very obsessed with this band whenever I was a kid. They were one of my first favorite bands. I was just a little kid when I first heard them, thanks to my brother. And they're not around anymore, although one of them still is doing music today. But this is another duo, and that is the White Stripes. Now, I think most people would know the White Stripes, at least even if they don't know their name, they have at least heard Seven Nation Army, which, don't get me wrong, that's a good song, but they're much better than that song, I will say. Like Seven Nation Army's like Whip It from Devo, or even Smells Like Teen Spirit like Nirvana, which, although Nirvana has some other famous songs too, but a lot of people have at least heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's the same with the White Stripes and Seven Nation Army, but they got a lot. They got some other songs that are kick ass, like even more so, and yeah, I think their discography is great. I think all their albums are really good. They only had 6 albums, but they're all great, and Jack White, very talented dude, very great. He's a great guitar player. His singing's okay. It's not the best, but he has a good voice at least. And I would even say the same about Meg White, who I don't think is a great singer either, but she does have a beautiful voice actually. And her drumming, some people give her shit. They say she's not a very good drummer, which I don't know. I mean, she's not the best, but it works with the music, though, I will say. So, like, I can't see anyone else drum for the White Stripes, but, like, she basically, like, didn't even know how to play the drums when they first started anyways. But I think as the albums go on, her drumming gets a lot better. But I think they're great together. I think they're fantastic. Jack and Meg. Unfortunately, they're not around. They're not doing music together. In fact, Meg's not doing music at all anymore. Like, she just disappeared off of the face of the earth, unfortunately. But Jack still is doing music, and I don't love his solo stuff. I got his first album, Blunderbuss, which is okay, but he's a very talented guy, though, for sure. And the White Stripes are badass. They're one of the most badass bands ever. And yeah, and they are. Oh, favorite song is I Can't Wait, which is from this album. Really awesome riff, and it's just an awesome song. But yeah, the White Stripes, they're my number 39. Okay, coming at number 38, number 38, we have another I would say kind of an underrated band too from the 90s, and that is Cake. Cake is so good. Kind of similar to to Morphine. They also have a horn player, but they have a trumpet player. And like, what other rock band has a trumpet player? Like, for real. But they're very interesting. They're very weird and unique, and very like, I don't know. They're all over the place musically. Like, kind of like some folk, blues, country, but also mixed in with like some other stuff. Like, I mean, rock, of course, but funk and jazz, kind of, and even, even rap. And they're very unique. They're very interesting. But I dig them a lot. I think a lot of people will know the song "The Distance" at least, but much like, Seven Nation Army and the White Stripes, they're even better than that song. That's a good song too, of course. But yeah, listen to the album Fashion Nugget, which unfortunately I don't own, but that album is amazing, like from start to finish, so good. My favorite song though happens to be the title song from, in my opinion, their second best album. That'd be Comfort Eagle, the title song. That one is so awesome. And it's just, yeah. Anyways, yeah, Cake, they are my number 38. Alright, get a drink of water real quick. Hopefully the audio sounds good. I have my fan on, if you could hear, but and you can see my hair blow a little, but anyways, all right. So coming at number 37, we have a punk band. Now this band, I kind of want to call underrated, almost. I mean, in the punk scene, definitely not, but I almost want to say they're musically underrated, although everyone has seen their logo. Their logo is everywhere, and I've even seen some kids with their logo, and they don't even know who this band is. Unfortunately, it's pretty sad, honestly. But this band, one of my favorite punk bands. I used to say they were my favorite punk band. I think I like at least one more better than them, but I've always digged this band. My number 37 is the Misfits. Yeah, Misfits. They're just a great band. They have like horror themed lyrics and whatnot. A lot of their songs are based on horror movies, and their logo, the skull logo, was actually a reference to like an old cereal called the Crimson Ghost. Not cereal like the food, like cereal like TV. But yeah, and yeah, they're really cool. I think Glenn Danzig. I haven't listened to the Michael Graves stuff, but the Glenn Danzig stuff I love a lot, and I think he's a great singer when it came to the Misfits. And he just had a really cool voice, and their image too is really cool, my favorite song by them is actually from my favorite punk album of all time. That'd be Static Age, but my favorite song is Comeback, which is like maybe the longest Misfits song. That's like a 5-minute song from a band that usually does like a minute or two, but yeah, Misfits are awesome, and they are my number 37. Okay, coming at number 36, we have I would call these guys a metal band, but they're more on like the alternative metal side. That would be Tool. Yeah, Tool is a very interesting band. I mean, I think a lot of people would call them like progressive metal, maybe, at least their later stuff. But yeah, they have a very talented singer, although a kind of a weird and questionable dude, but I think he's a fantastic singer, at least. Maynard James Keenan, amazing singer, but also the other dudes, they're all talented musicians as well, and yeah, and they just got really good songs. A lot of their songs are kind of long. Some of them can be kind of boring. Like, I can't listen to Tool very often, but you know, I don't like every single song that they've done, but they have done some great songs, and yeah, they got a great sound. So yeah, favorite song is from one of my all-time favorite albums, the album that like changed, one of the albums that changed my life. This is Anima or Enigma. I don't know exactly what it's called, but that would be the closing track from this album, Third Eye, which goes on for like either 13 or 15 minutes, but it goes by quick though when you listen to it, and I love it so much. That song is great. Also, there's some Bill Hicks samples in that song too in the beginning, and I love Bill Hicks. He's my favorite comedian of all time. But yeah, Tool, they are my number 36. Okay, coming at number 35, we have a very influential band. They were very, they influenced the glam rock genre, along with David Bowie. More on Bowie later, but that would be TRex. TRex is really, really awesome. Like, a lot of it's kind of blues rock, but very, I don't know how to explain it, but it just sounds so cool. They actually started out as like a psychedelic folk rock band under the name like Tyrannosaurus Rex, but then they changed it to T-Rex and like went more of a psychedelic, well, kind of psychedelic, but more of like a soft, well, I don't know how to explain it, but like just glam rock, I guess you could say. But Mark Bolan had a great voice, just like one of the sexiest voices for a man you would ever hear, and I say that as a heterosexual, but still. But yeah, they're awesome. Their album Electric Warrior, which I did actually review on the channel, I remember, but check out that review. But that's a really good album. I don't own it, unfortunately, but that's a good one. I grabbed the wrong CD for my next band, I just realized, but so I'll pause and get the CD I meant to grab. But anyways, but yeah, favorite song from T-Rex, that would be Life's a Gas. That one's so good. Yeah, T-Rex, they are my number 35. Alright, be right back. I'm going to grab a CD real quick. Alright. Okay, coming at number 34, we have a very influential band to the heavy metal genre, and I have them on my shirt right now. Yeah, that is Black Sabbath. Now, I know Black Sabbath, they went on for years, and they actually had multiple different singers, but everybody, including Ronnie James Dio, of course, but everybody, I think, knows the band for Ozzy Osbourne, and let's be honest, that was the best era of Black Sabbath, was with Ozzy. I mean, no disrespect, I respect that they went on after that, but yeah, after Ozzy, I'm just not a fan, really. With the exception of one Ronnie James Dio Black Sabbath song called After All the Dead. That one is awesome. But aside from that, yeah, I'm mostly just like the Ozzy era of Black Sabbath. But that is like a great lineup, Ozzy Osbourne on vocals, Tony Iommi on guitar, who is an amazing guitar player despite losing 2 fingers, but he still managed to be like one of the greatest guitar players ever. And Geezer Butler on bass and Bill Ward on drums. Like, they were just all so talented. Even Ozzy. he might have been the least talented one out of the four, but I still liked Ozzy. He has a weird voice, yes, but you listen to their very first album, he sounds amazing on it. Like, his voice is a lot deeper, and this album proves that he is a good singer. I think later on he's still not bad. I think he's pretty good. It's just kind of an odd voice, but yeah. But Black Sabbath, yeah, they popularized the heavy metal genre. I don't know if they were the very first heavy metal band. It's debatable, but they did popularize it. I mean, to them, whenever they started, they were just a heavy blues rock band. So yeah, and this album itself is kind of bluesy, but I love their debut album. By the way, it's so good, and yeah. Black Sabbath are fantastic. My favorite song by them from this album is N.I.B. N.I.B. is so fucking good. And if I ever have my own band, I definitely want to cover that song. It's amazing. Yeah, Black Sabbath, they are my number 34. And coming in at number 33, we have a band that came around the same time as Black Sabbath, and they're also extremely popular in rock music, very influential and whatnot, and very ahead of their time. They were very unique, and also a great lineup with this band too. That would be the Doors. Yeah, the Doors. I mean, everybody knows, of course, the late great Jim Morrison. Sorry, there's a wrestler named John Morrison. I don't know why I did that. That was weird of me. But Jim Morrison, I mean, he had a great voice, and he was a really good songwriter, too. Like, his lyrics were basically poetry. Like, that's basically what he even considered himself, was a poet. And, but it worked very well with the music. And the other three guys, I mean, yeah, Jim Morrison was great, but come on, the other three guys... Really, I mean, of course, they wouldn't be the same without Jim, and they definitely wasn't after he died with the two albums that they did without him. But I still think they were the ones that held it together. Ray Manzarek on keyboard, who also passed away sadly, who is actually my favorite Doors member. I love Ray Manzarek, and you also got, of course, Robbie Krieger on guitar and John Densmore on drums. Like, they were still great. But all four of them, much like the original Black Sabbath, like, just such a good lineup. And yeah, like I said, their music was very, very different for its time. Kind of bluesy, yeah, but and even jazz too. But it was just so different from other rock bands at the time, and yeah, I think I believe I heard some critics at the time didn't like them just because they were different, but and Jim Morrison was a crazy dude, but yeah, but they were fantastic. They were so good. Favorite song by them is from my favorite album, Morrison Hotel. And that was, I believe, the very first song I ever heard by them, if I'm not mistaken. I heard it from the video game Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. That would be Peace Frog. It's kind of a punk rock song. Like, those Tony Hawk games usually have punk music. That's probably their most punk song, is Peace Frog. But, yeah, that one's great. Yeah, the Doors, they are my number 33. Okay, coming at number 32 is actually my favorite. I think these guys are my favorite heavy metal band. I had Black Sabbath, and I don't know, it's debatable whether Black Sabbath is better than this band, but I don't know. There's something about these guys I love. Like, they're weird, and that's probably why I love them. That is System of a Down. Yeah, number 32 is System of a Down. Like, these guys are so fucking weird. And I remember the very first time I heard this album Toxicity, which I will say is another like life-changing album for me. Such an amazing heavy metal album too. But like right when the first song, Prison Song, when I heard it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But I loved it, and it's so fucking heavy. They have a weird ass vocalist, Serge Tankian, but he's very talented, and it just works so well with their music, and it's just, they're so bizarre, but I love it. Like, that's why they're my favorite heavy metal band, because they're weird. They're not just, they're not just your average heavy metal band. They're a weird metal band. I think most people know the song Chop Suey, and that's good. That's a good song, but they're just a really awesome band, and just every time I hear them, I don't think it's not my favorite song, but I do think their best is actually Hypnotize. That song is just a masterpiece, and like I think it's one of the greatest heavy metal songs ever made. However, my personal favorite, which is funny because neither of them is from their best album, Toxicity, but my personal favorite's actually from the first album, and it was even the opening track for the first album. That was Sweet Pea. Like that one is just insane, and just such a crazy way to start the band, because I was, the opening track for their first album, but it was just so aggressive, and I love it. That's why that one's my favorite by them. But yeah, System of a Down, they are my number 32. Okay, coming in at number 31, we have a band that was around with others that I think in the last few that I had the B-52s. I had I was Susie and the Banshees, which I would say this band's a lot more like Susie and the Banshees. In fact, the lead guy in this band was even in Susie and the Banshees at one point. But they are very popular, and like they are probably like best known for along with Susie and the Banshees, they were they were the band that like popularized the gothic rock genre. But that would be my number 31. That'd be the Kier. The Kier, they started out as just like a post-punk band, and there were only 3 of them too. And Robert Smith, I think he is a very talented dude. He does kind of have a weird voice, so it's very whiny, I know, but I think he's great though. I really like Robert Smith. He played with Susie and the Banshees, and that's what made him want to do goth rock. Because this album right here, their first 3 Imaginary Boys, is more on the side of just like post-punk, I guess. But yeah, the Kier though, they're great. I always loved the Kier. Not every song, but still, favorite song by them is A Forest. That one is so badass. And yeah, the Kier, they are my number 31. And then coming at number 30 is another band that popularized the goth rock genre. I like these guys slightly better, I think mostly due to just this album alone that I have, because this album happens to be my favorite album of all time, despite the band itself only being at number 30. But I think this album is a masterpiece. But my number 30, that'd be Joy Division. And yeah, I'm talking about, of course, their debut album, Unknown Pleasures. They only did 2 albums because, unfortunately, the lead singer, Ian Curtis, committed suicide. And so they only did 2 albums. And their other album, Closer, I think is okay. That one's a little more just new wavy, and it's just not the same as Unknown Pleasures. Unknown Pleasures is more, of course, post-punk, but it's like very dark and just just so dark sounding, and also the production is kind of shitty, but it works with the music. So I love the production, and this album sounds amazing on vinyl. Like, I think that's the best experience to hear this album is on vinyl, because it's just so good. I think Ian Curtis he had an amazing voice, and it worked so well with the music. So just how dark they sounded, his voice just matched perfectly with it. The other guys, I mean, they're great, and after he died, they went on to form New Order, which New Order's okay. I do like the song Ceremony, but that's, I think, because it started out as a Joy Division song, so there we go. But, yeah, I don't have New Order on the list, but, they're fine. But I do love Joy Division, and my favorite song by them, of course, from this album, that is New Dawn Fades. That song, holy shit, like 5 minutes of just like the darkest shit you'll ever hear, but it just sounds so good. Great riffs in it, and the lyrics are so good too. Yeah, Joy Division, they are my number 30, and listen to Unknown Pleasures if you haven't. I mean, I guess just listen to it either way, but listen to it on vinyl, though. Buy it on, if you like the album, buy it on vinyl. So good. Yeah. Okay, coming in at number, we got, how many left? 4. We got 4 left. Okay, good. I'm starting to lose my voice. But, yeah. Coming at number 29, we have a band that was fronted by a bass player for a more popular band. That would be the Pixies, and more on them later. But that would be the Breeders, fronted, of course, by Kim Deal, and her twin sister Kelly's in the band too. The Breeders are really good. Like, sometimes I kind of think that the Breeders are almost better than the Pixies. Like, that's how good they are. Like, I mean, their music is a little bit similar to the Pixies, but it's also kind of different. And, if you like the Pixies, I do recommend listening to the Breeders, especially this album. Like, I think this is a great album to start with. Last Splash, their best. Yeah, it's so good. Their first album, Pod, is good as well, but Last Splash is fantastic. Favorite song, that would be No Aloha. So good, yeah. The Breeders, they are my number 29. Get another drink of water. Alright. Coming at number 28, we have another band that is a stoner band, much like Cypress Hill, and I listened to them before I started smoking weed. They're not a rap group, though. They are a ska punk band, and who, unfortunately, the lead singer died very young, and I think you might know who I'm talking about. That is, of course, Sublime. Yeah, Sublime. Cade, my cousin from the Your Cousins Are Critics podcast, if you watch those, he got me into this band. We were both super into this band when we were teenagers, and at one point this was his favorite band, and they've always been, of course, one of my favorites, and they're just so goddamn good. Brad Knoll, rest in peace to him. He was a fantastic singer and a great songwriter, and unfortunately drugs took over his life, and yeah, that's how he died, unfortunately. But yeah, I think all 3 of their studio albums, I think they're all great. I mean, of course, their last self-titled, but their debut 40 Ounces of Freedom and the second Robin the Hood, I think they're all great albums, and yeah, just a great band. I think the other 2 dudes are really good too. Eric Wilson's a great bass player. Bud Gaw is a great drummer. And they're actually back with the son of Sublime, son of Brad Knoll, Jacob. That's what I've heard. Excuse me. That's what I've heard, and pretty interesting. But yeah, Sublime, they are great, and my favorite song by them is an acoustic song from Robin the Hood, and that's Boss DJ. So good. Yeah, Sublime, they're my number 28. Coming at number 27, we have the very first band I ever loved. I said the White Stripes were one of them. This, though, was the very first one I remember loving. At a very young age, I was just a kid, but I absolutely loved this band, and they are my favorite punk band. That is the Ramones. Yeah, I kind of mentioned them earlier, but the Ramones, I mean, come on, it's the Ramones. How can you not love the Ramones? They're just so good. And they lasted for a long time too, about 20 years, and I ranked all their albums. I don't think any of them are necessarily bad. Some of them are kind of but I think they're all pretty good in their own way. And unfortunately, all of these guys, the original lineup, unfortunately, they're all dead. We still have Marky Ramone, but yeah, I think Joey was great. I think his voice really worked with the music. Dee Dee is actually my favorite Ramone, just because I don't know, he's just cool, but also he was kind of fucked up too, but yeah. I didn't really like Johnny very much because he was an asshole, but an okay guitar player, I guess. But yeah, but the Ramones, I mean, they, of course, didn't invent punk rock, but they made it. They were like one of the bands to make it popular, and yeah, I think most people know who the Ramones are. So yeah, favorite song by them is actually "Here Today, Gone Tomorrow" from Rocket to Russia, which is more of a mellow song, but I love that one a lot though. It's so good. Yeah, the Ramones, they are my number 27, and finally, my number 26. The last one I'll talk about. Now this band, I kind of compared this band to the Ramones just because I said the Ramones are this band of punk rock. And some people maybe might think that this band is a little too low on the list. Some might say they're a little too high because this, believe it or not, this band also has haters. I don't really get it. I mean, if they're not your thing, they're not your thing, but then again, this band has experimented like all through music, so there has to be at least one song by this band you like, right? And yeah, they're probably the most famous band ever. My number 26 is the Beatles. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what can I say about the Beatles that hasn't been said? Do I think they're the greatest band ever? I mean, no, but close. Like, very close. My number one favorite band, I actually happen to think are better than the Beatles, but that's debatable. But I still think the Beatles are outstanding. Core started out as just doing punk or pop music, pretty much, which I do enjoy. I do like some of their pop stuff, but as they went on, they started experimenting, and really, I would just say they were just an experimental rock band later on. And I like their later stuff better. It's just badass. The White Album is actually my favorite, but unfortunately I don't own it. But I do have my second favorite would have to be Abbey Road, though. Yeah, and all four members. I mean, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Yeah, they're all great, and yeah, I just don't know what to say about the Beatles that hasn't been said already. And the thing about their like discography and their songs is that like there's just so many. There were so many great songs that they had. They experimented so much to the point where my favorite song by them is a song that probably not a whole lot of others would have as their favorite Beatles song, but that would be the continuing story of Bungalow Bill. I don't even think that's their best. I think their best is A Day in the Life, which I honestly think that's probably the greatest song ever written. but because that song is just such a masterpiece. But the continued story of Bungle Bill is my personal favorite, just because it's so catchy and funny and just an awesome song. But yeah, the Beatles. Some of y'all might not like it, and then some of y'all might not like that I have them at number 26. I'm sorry, it's just happens to be 25 artists I like better. But unfortunately, fortunately for me, because I'm getting tired now, but unfortunately for y'all, you gotta wait for at least one more part. But anyways, that does it for part 2 of my part 3. My mistake. See, I am getting tired. Part 3 of my top 100 favorite music artists list. Check out part 4 and the final part this coming Saturday, and that would be from 25 to 1. So check that out. All right. And also in the comments, if you want to do your top 100, that's cool. But if not, just say some of your favorite artists, and also what are some of your favorites that I mentioned in this video. So yeah. Okay, so please like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys later. All right. Peace.